Daniel parked his car at the edge of the long-forgotten driveway, gravel crunching under the tires. The air was heavy, carrying the smell of rain-soaked earth and rusted iron. The mansion loomed before him, dark windows like hollow eyes staring back at him. Once a place of laughter and family gatherings, now it stood broken, swallowed by silence and shadows. He pushed the old wooden door and it groaned in protest, sending a shiver through him. Inside, the scent of damp wood and dust wrapped around him like a shroud. Moonlight slipped through cracked glass, painting silver patterns across the floor littered with broken frames and torn curtains. Each step he took echoed unnaturally loud in the emptiness, as if the house itself was listening. Memories flickered in his mind. The grand staircase decorated during Christmas, his mother's laughter, his father's firm voice, all gone now, leaving only echoes that seemed to mock him. He tightened his jaw, convincing himself he came only to see what remained, to close this chapter once and for all. But then as he climbed the staircase, a sound froze him in place. It wasn't the creak of wood or the whisper of the wind. It was softer, human, a girl's voice trembling yet clear, brushing past the silence. "Why did you come back?" Daniel's heart hammered in his chest. He wasn't alone. Daniel spun toward the sound, his breath caught halfway in his throat. The shadows seemed to close in around him as his eyes searched the hallway. At first, he thought it was just his mind playing tricks, memories twisting into whispers. But then from the cracked door at the end of the corridor, he saw movement. Slowly, he pushed the door open. The hinges screeched, slicing through the silence. Inside, moonlight spilled across the floorboards, revealing a figure curled near the corner. A girl. Her hair was tangled, her clothes worn and patched with clumsy stitches, as if she had been mending them herself. Her eyes wide, cautious, almost glowing in the pale light, locked on his every move. For a moment, neither spoke. The storm outside rattled the windows, thunder rolling like a drumbeat in the distance. Finally, she rose to her feet, standing with a defiance that didn't match her fragile frame. Her voice, though trembling, carried an edge of ownership. "This place is mine now," she said firmly, clutching an old blanket around her shoulders like a shield. "You left it. I had nowhere else to go." Daniel blinked, stunned. A stranger living here? In his family's abandoned mansion. He took a cautious step forward, but she flinched, pressing herself against the wall. Her hands trembled, yet she refused to look away. There was something raw in her expression. Fear, yes, but also pride. He opened his mouth, unsure what to say. She beat him to it, her voice sharper this time. "If you came to take it back, you'll have to fight me for it." For the first time in years, Daniel felt the weight of the house, not as empty ruins, but as a place someone had desperately claimed for survival. Rain battered the windows as the storm grew fiercer, lightning flashing across the broken glass. Daniel stood still, watching the girl torn between disbelief and pity. She looked too young to have endured so much, yet her voice carried the kind of strength that only came from pain. Finally, he lowered his tone, speaking gently, as if not to scare her further. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. I didn't know anyone was living here." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she pulled the blanket tighter around herself and sank onto the floor, her knees drawn to her chest. Her silence was heavy, filled with the weight of secrets she didn't trust him with yet. Daniel sat down across from her, keeping his distance, waiting. The storm howled above them, but inside the room, there was only the steady rhythm of her breathing and the occasional crack of thunder. After what felt like an eternity, her voice finally broke the quiet. "I had nowhere else to go," she whispered. "The world doesn't care about people like me. I'm no one. Just an orphan they passed around until I stopped mattering. And then I found this place. Empty, broken, but it didn't chase me away. So I stayed." Her words struck him harder than the thunder. Daniel looked around the room. The cracked walls, the faded wallpaper, the piles of discarded objects she had gathered into a makeshift life. She had survived here, in the cold silence of his forgotten past. He swallowed hard, guilt pressing against his chest. This house, once filled with warmth, had become a grave of his memories and her only sanctuary. "You shouldn't have had to live like this," he murmured, more to himself than to her. Her eyes flicked up to his, sharp and wary. "Then why did you leave it behind?" she asked, her voice trembling with accusation. The question hit him like a blade. Daniel had no answer, only shame. The storm outside raged louder, as if echoing the storm building between them. The night stretched on, the storm refusing to loosen its grip on the world outside. Daniel sat in silence, her words echoing in his chest long after they were spoken. He looked at her, this fragile yet unbreakable soul who had carved a life out of ruins. And for the first time in years, he felt the mansion breathe again, not with ghosts of the past, but with a living presence that refused to surrender. When the first pale light of dawn filtered through the broken windows, Daniel finally spoke, his voice steady, carrying a promise he hadn't even realized was forming. You won't have to stay here alone anymore. Not like this. I can help you. I will help you. Her eyes widened, suspicion and hope colliding in their depths. She clutched the blanket tighter, as if afraid his words were only another dream that would vanish with the daylight. Why? She asked softly, her tone more fragile than before. Why would you care? Daniel's throat tightened. He thought of his own loneliness, of years spent chasing success while ignoring the roots of his life, the people and places he had abandoned. Maybe this was his chance to make something right. He leaned forward, his gaze steady. Because you deserve better. Because no one should have to fight the world alone. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them away, refusing to let them fall. Slowly, carefully, she lowered the blanket and nodded, as though testing the weight of his words. If you mean it, she whispered, then maybe this place doesn't have to be just mine anymore. Daniel felt something shift within him, as though the house itself released a breath it had been holding for years. The broken mansion, once a symbol of loss and abandonment, now held the fragile seed of something new. Trust, healing, and a future yet unwritten. As the morning sun broke through the clouds, spilling gold across the crumbling floorboards, Daniel stood and offered her his hand. After a long, trembling pause, she reached out and took it. And for the first time, the silence in the house was not empty. It was full of promise.